Would you have voted to repeal the military's don't ask, don't tell policy? Why or why not?
Well, I'm glad you brought that up. My position on that issue is to defer to our military commander, to Secretary Bob Gates, a native Wichitan, and Admiral Mike McMullen, our Joint Chiefs of Staff. And when they say that the military is ready to embrace such a policy, then I would support their recommendation. And I believe it's a very important point that we support our troops and our military, particularly when we're waging two wars. I am very proud of the fact that I authored the legislation in the legislature restricting where Fred Phelps could picket. Fred Phelps and his family. It's an embarrassment that in the home state of Fred Phelps, we did not have a law restricting where he could picket at the funerals of our war heroes who have given the ultimate sacrifice defending our freedoms. And so I think we should have a position on military and on veterans that is free of partisan politics, that actually supports our troops, makes sure that our troops have the resources and the material needed to accomplish their mission and to bring them safely and swiftly home as soon as possible once the mission is done.
I would have supported the continuation of Don't Ask, Don't Tell. Representative Goyle said he would defer to the military leaders. Of course, that's not the duty that the Constitution gives to elected officials. The soldiers have their say. Soldiers get their say. And I was one. I served in the United States Army in active duty for 5.5 years. So I have a bit of experience with this set of issues. I care deeply what our generals and leaders, the folks on the ground, think. They have the best data. There I agree with Representative Goyle. There is lots of disagreement within the armed forces about the appropriateness of that particular rule and that particular law and how it should be handled, how it should be implemented. Those are all things we should take great advice from. But our Commander-in-Chief has an obligation beyond that. We have civilian control of our military here, and that notion is absolutely critical. And so I would support the continuation of a policy that I think most of the folks in the United States military, I've seen a little bit of data, think has actually worked reasonably well at accommodating needs. No one knows better than me that when you're in the Army, you give up a few of your rights. There's a few things you can't do that we get to do as civilians. And so I would have supported that policy, or would.
Well, I, like all Americans, thank Mike for his service to our country and his service at West Point. And as I said, I would defer to our military commanders and leaders to make sure that when the military is ready to adopt the policy, I believe that's the route to go. And again, I think we need a position on national security and our veterans that is free from partisan politics. As the ranking member of the Veterans Committee up in the Kansas House, we did that. I've seen it work where we've had bipartisan policies that make sure we give the troops what they need and the resources to our veterans, not only when they're in the field, but when they return home from service. We can never